Arista Networks has announced an expansion of its cloud-grade routing solutions that extends its product line to the edge. That's coming up next on this episode of Telecom Newsbytes, brought to you by 911 Inform. I'm Mark Fletcher, and I'm the Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. Let's get started. Industry analyst Zayas Caravala published an article in Fierce Telecom towards the end of August that noted that switch manufacturer Arista has added some new features to its EOS operating system that enable its products to be used as edge routers and not just switches. The updates include some new capabilities for virtual private networks as well as traffic engineering. Arista has always been known as a switching vendor, but it's been growing its routing business since 2016 when it introduced its Broadcom Jericho-based R-Series products that included its FlexRoute technology. This addition allowed Arista to support a full internet routing table in merchant silicon. Although the company does not build routers, it does deliver some routing functionality in its R-Series switch. Now, this is not the first time vendors tried to put carrier-grade routing in a switch, and each has failed in their attempts to oust the de facto standard carrier router vendors. The biggest issue was that a decade ago, switch-based products never contained the horsepower that was required to replace a router. Historically, switches processed multi-protocol traffic poorly, something that routers did natively, while at the same time, switches moved Ethernet packets extremely well. Arista has also been careful with its aggressiveness. For example, in 2016, it didn't try to replace every router everywhere, as others did, and failed. As the company evolved, Arista has beefed up its routing capabilities, and in a briefing, the company told analysts it has added almost 300 routing features in just the past 18 months. There's clearly been some pent-up demand from the enterprise for a switch that could also route, as well as the obvious economic advantage with costs per port being about a tenth of a router, according to Caravala. So while this scenario seems to be a no-brainer decision, switches still cannot replace a router everywhere. Switches are still Ethernet only. Therefore, if multi-protocol support's required, it's still best served by a router. Arista is now using the term cloud grade versus carrier grade as it's bringing its experience with the multi-cloud edge, metro edge, and 5G RAN, or radio access network. Of these opportunities, the 5G RAN is the most interesting as it's an area where Arista's previous cloud provider experience will be attractive as 5G mandates cloud-native architecture. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a dent that Arista can put into the business of router incumbents. Years ago, analysts like Caravala were skeptical that Arista could extend its value proposition, but it's done a nice job of finding adjacencies where it can add value. With a wholesale replacement of routers for switches that can route likely not being in the cards for Arista, they should have some success in the previous mentioned areas. Just another example how 5G technology will reach well beyond the carrier level and touch the enterprise directly. That wraps up this episode of Telecom Newsbytes, brought to you by 911 Inform, delivering next-generation 911 solutions for the enterprise today and making every second count. Visit them on the web at 911inform.com. I'm Mark Fletcher. I'm the Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. You can follow me on Twitter at Fletch911. Be sure to like and subscribe below. That way you can be immediately notified whenever a new podcast is published. Telecom Newsbytes is published every Monday through Friday and is available on your favorite podcast platform such as iTunes and the iHeartRadio network. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time. Take care.